Methodology of Humanities, Module 3, Narration and Representation. Narration in Philosophy. In Greece, in ancient times, great scholars like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle shared the essence of education through philosophical concepts. The Republic by Plato, as well as the Poetics from Aristotle, were of highly philosophical concepts, which were preached and discussed among academicians and the public in the 4th and 3rd century BC. Philosophy valued self-identity and moral values. Its aim was to lead the public to right action and right living in order to create self-realization. Plato's image of idea as eternal and reality as imitation of the ideal image that already exists had its philosophical impact among ordinary men. Philosophy is always related to narratives since time immemorial. In the ancient period, it was through fables that the importance of human life and values of the society were preserved. In each religion, the element of communication was through narratives. In Hindu mythologies, stories were woven together about gods and goddesses, their good actions, in addition to the way they defeat the evil. Religious texts like the Bible, Quran, and Gita also use the narrative mode to spread the message of truth as well as ethical values. The lives of great heroes from mythologies also convey the ideal principles of living. The eightfold path of living and the 3 axioms of good life are wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline in Buddhist philosophy. Every religion gives its own philosophical agenda on what constitutes good moral living. Some of these are practices in Buddhism, the belief of Jainism in non-violence, morality, as well as ethics based on liberation of soul. The Christian notion of love one's neighbor as one loves oneself, or the advice of Krishna to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma bhaleshu kadajana, or yoga is skill in action. Such things are narratives. Philosophy and narration have 2 important elements that could be linked. The interdependency of philosophy and narration. 2. Philosophy's experimentation with various kinds of narratives in order to explore the secret of human existence, life, truth, and values. The philosophers have only interpreted the world in various ways. The point, however, is to change it, said Karl Marx. Philosophical analysis of narration. Philosophy accompanies the guidance and support of narratives like fables, stories, songs, parables, anecdotes, etc., in order to put forth its argument to the public. The idea of a utopian land created by Thomas More in his book Utopia. Thomas More, the Renaissance humanist of the 16th century, an English social philosopher, in his Utopia brings out the concept of a peaceful land devoid of chaos. This is an imaginary but philosophical message for ideal living to be accepted and practiced by human beings. The concept of ideal living could be experienced in the myth of Mahabali from the Malayalam mythology. It gives us the impression of an ideal and peaceful land that existed during the rule of the king Mahabali, conveyed through songs and narratives. The image of ideal politics and a harmonious form of living by the people is also identified from the myth. The French philosopher Jacques Derrida formulated the theory of Western philosophy with an analysis of speech and writing. Derrida made a critique of the Western philosophic tradition. He critiqued the Platonic binaries of speech and writing, or presence and absence, and the like. Speech has a prime place in Western thinking because it focuses on physical presence. Presence of a person gives recognition for a person's speech. Writing can be done even in a person's absence. To Plato, writing is secondary, and people who follow the Platonic dictum would argue that presence is more significant than absence. Physical presence establishes identity and personality. Speech specifies the physical identity of a person while creating social interactions among relationships and human beings within a community. But Derrida problematized this, the primacy given to speech and the secondary position given to writing. He had developed a concept of archy-writing. In Of Grammatology, he says that there existed writing, and even in speech there is an element of writing, and the primacy given to speech is not that significant. Writing is primary, he said. Dr. R. Vishwanathan of Calicut University English Department, formerly of that department, had written a letter to Derrida. It's a creative write-up in which he addresses Derrida as his Edutachan. Eduthu means writing, the father of writing. So he once again recovered the process of writing, and he has developed an idea of trace. Derrida, in his theory that he had put forward, speaks about the trace, T-R-A-C-E. And R. Vishwanathan Marsh is of the opinion that we too had such a practice in India, or in Kerala especially, of writing in sand when we begin to learn the first letters in our vernacular or in Sanskrit. We start to write in rice or in sand, that after writing a word we will be rubbing it off and another letter will be written. And these kinds of facts is associated with the idea of trace in Derridian parlance. So writing is significant. Of course, a child will learn to speak first, but writing is significant. We learn things only after the initiation that we make in the form of writing in sand. It's a kind of religious activity. It's a narration. There is some kind of a archy writing in it. This is not the type of writing that we gave importance during the 16th century after invention of the printing press. Writing, reading, printing, and such activities are associated with modernity. And even in pre-modern period, writing was prevalent. One has to go back to ancient times when people had written things on rough surfaces. In Edakal caves in Wayanad district, we can see some traces of writing. Such things are not carried over to our generation through folk tales or through oral literature and such things. The letters are there written on the walls of the caves, and in our own area there are drawings made by shepherds on the rough surface of laterite stones in places like Etukuduka. And such things, such drawings are significant when we speak about the primacy of writing. All these things are different narratives, and philosophy experiments with various kinds of narratives, and narration therefore promotes the ideals and principles of philosophy. It is through the medium of narration that philosophy acquires a specified meaning in every part of the world. Thus, Derrida could deconstruct the whole Western tradition and concept of philosophy and a host of other theoreticians of the 20th century that we are familiar with, like Lacan, Foucault, Barthes, Lyotard, and such people. We now know that everything is part of a linguistic discourse. Language and narration are there, and everything is part of a discourse. That will be philosophy, history, science, medicine, or whatever be the branch of knowledge that we have at our disposal. Finally, at a final level, at an ultimate level, everything is a narrative. Everything is part of a narrative discourse. And these things can not only create identity, this can create subjectivity also. A person who listens to a narrative will be able to construct an identity, of course. We tell stories to construct our identity. At the same time, we will be subjectified, to use the term of Louis Althusser, that we will be interpellated, subjectified, and we will be positioned in such a way that we think that we have constructed an identity of our own. But at the same time, we should understand that we are in a subjective position. We are subjectified, and we look at the world of reality from that perspective, from the constructed identity that have been given to us by others as well. Our identity is constructed not by we people ourselves, or I myself, or you yourselves, but the whole society go into the making of your identity and also your subject position.